Hi everyone, I'm meteorologist Mike Ottenweller with the Alaska Pacific River Forecast Center of the National Weather Service. I want to talk with you a little bit today about being flood prepared as we look at the potential for spring breakup season this year. I also want to give you a forecast for what we expect from the River Forecast Center for spring breakup 2025. So as you can see here, this is looking at Circle, Alaska from 2023. Pretty significant flooding, their flood of record all time thus far. And this was taken by our RiverWatch team those 2 years ago, and this was the same day Crooked Creek also had record flooding. So in advance of this type of activity, we want to make sure that you know what to do to be prepared for any potential flooding. Let's take a look at what we can do in terms of flood preparedness before the floodwaters start to rise. Get notified and have a communication plan. You can also assemble your emergency kit. This can be things like special dietary needs and your prescription medicine. Know your risk. Are you in a flood-prone area, or is the potential for floods higher at your spot this year? Charge your electronics. Prepare your family and your pets. Prepare your home. Things like moving things away from the water's edge before the floodwaters start to come can be really helpful. And then, of course, leave. If local emergency officials advise that you would evacuate, follow the recommendations and listen carefully to what they advise. As you can see here, we have a couple different ways to follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, and also you can follow ready.gov, where the state of Alaska, our partners throughout breakup season, will be keeping you informed of the things that you need to do to be ready for any flood potential. So now let's jump into what we see for our forecast from the River Forecast Center for the breakup. Three things that go into breakup in our forecast are snowpack, our ice thickness and strength, and the spring weather patterns. So those late April and early May temperatures will contribute to how quickly the snow melts, also contribute to the thermal condition and the integrity of the ice. And finally, the type of breakup that we expect to see. Will it be a mechanical or a dynamic breakup, or will it be a more calm thermal breakup? So let's take a look at what our snow has been looking for since the beginning of the winter, and now as of April 1st. You can see here, this is our snow water equivalent map, and this is across the state of Alaska and into the headwaters of the Yukon. Across southwest Alaska, very low snow amounts. These amounts actually show zero for compared to the climatology, but really low snow amounts on the western side of the Alaska Range down through southwest Alaska. Maybe some patchy stuff here and there from the recent storms, but otherwise very low, below average snow amounts across that area. As we get up towards the portions of the lower Yukon and the central Yukon, AKwx area, we see slightly more average amounts near normal. And then across the central portions of the interior, that's where we have our area of highest snow amounts, about 175% of normal, 175%. And so that's kind of our area of greatest concern right now in terms of our snow melt and the contribution that that will have to the waterways up there. South Central Alaska and Southeast Alaska, down through the Copper River Basin into Juneau's area, we have quite a bit lower than normal snowfall, but still in the mountains we do have some spots where there is variability and we see things a little bit higher than normal. As we look into the Yukon territory, our friends in Canada, our partners that help us with this effort, we can see average to just below average for snow amounts in that area for the snow water equivalent. And of course, that precipitation, that moisture will make its way from the headwaters down into the upper Yukon. Again, just another map to look at, very similar thing. This is once again snow water equivalent, showing about 175% across that Sheena and Tanana area. That's our area of greatest concern. How about our temperatures across Alaska through the early springtime? So this is from the middle of March through the middle of April, and you can see really colder than normal conditions across the western portion of the state, generally about 4 to 5 degrees below normal. And that's contrasted with the eastern portion of the state, especially down by the Copper River Basin, generally running about 4 to 5 degrees above normal. So these colder temperatures will help to slow the breakup process down and keep things in check just a little bit longer in terms of snow melt and ice integrity. Speaking of ice integrity, here's our map of our ice thickness across the state of Alaska. These are from our great observers who take these measurements throughout the winter months, the harsh winter months, where they have to go out and measure. You can see generally 100 to just lower than 100% of normal. So ice thickness compared to last year, just a little bit lower than what we expected last year. And then as we look at this loop over here, you can see this is sleet mute in the middle of January along the Kuskokwim River. And we actually saw rain, warm conditions, and water up on top of the ice pack there. So that's something that we monitor from the River Forecast Center as we look into the spring breakup time frame. We have to take into account what happened during the winter. So as we see those warmer temperatures start to materialize, we want to remind you to think twice before you go on ice. Lots of variability happening across the state right now in terms of temperatures and ice thickness. So we don't want to see anybody go with the vehicle or anything else through the ice pack. So just be mindful, now is the time to start planning to leave the ice alone and move away from those areas. Now, looking at our forecasted temperatures as we go through the later portions of April and into May, you can see this colder air still holding on across the western portions of the state and even stretching towards the interior. So again, that could help to slow things down a little bit, keep the ice and the snow in place a little bit longer. Across south central and southeast Alaska, that's where we have things holding a little bit warmer, and so we expect spring-like conditions to continue to help to melt that snow and melt the ice as well, and so we'll expect breakup to continue to move pretty seamlessly across those portions. Now there's 3 spots I want to show you the temperatures, the variability across the last few months. You can see there a variable trend across the area at Fairbanks for above and below normal temperatures, but then the last few weeks we've settled into a fairly normal pattern there, and that looks to continue. A pretty similar story for Eagle. Maybe we're a little bit more above average, but then we settled back towards normal. Bethel is where we have a little bit more colder air, as we saw there on that departure from normal map, but then we get back towards average here the last week or two. So what do we expect now in terms of breakup type? So we have the dynamic breakup there on the left, and that's where you can see that the ice remains hard and that there's not any place for the water to go. If you get a cold spring followed by a rapid warm-up, this is more likely to cause ice jams, such as in 2009, 2013, and 2023. Now, a thermal breakup has usually rotten ice, less snowpack, and the ice is weak, so there is not much resistance for the water to move through. Those were years like 2015 and 2016. This year we expect somewhere right in the middle for 2025, probably some spots that have dynamic, but in general we expect a pretty average breakup across the state. The areas of concern are generally once again from the Chena Basin down through Manly Hot Springs, over towards the Koyukuk and the Buckland areas. Those are our areas where we have slightly above normal expectations for breakup flood potential. How about for timing? We're looking for near normal timing from basically the Brooks Range all the way down through eastern Alaska. And then because of those colder temperatures out over western Alaska, maybe a day to 3 days late. And this is our breakup map. I want to advertise this as a great place to follow along with how the breakup front is progressing. This is the loop from 2024, and you can see as the map updates, we're advertising any places where there's a watch, an advisory, or a warning from the National Weather Service. And you can also see exactly where the ice is starting to open up, where there's open river. This is a great way to follow along with the breakup fronts if you're out in one of these communities. So once again, the summary for the state of Alaska: generally have those concerns across the interior portions and some concerns with the stronger ice pack up along the north slope there, the Kapark and the Sag rivers. But in general, things should be pretty quiet along the Kuskokwim River, and expecting the most concern into the interior portions of the state. So what do we need from you? We need you to pay attention, to be flood ready, and your observations. We would love it if you have reports of how things have broken up in your area, or how the snow is melting, or how much ice is left in the rivers. You can follow along with us at weather.gov/APRFC. You can also find our latest outlook from our ESF every Friday afternoon at this website here. You can find us on social media. I know lots of folks out there are on social media, so you can use our Facebook or our Twitter page. And then finally, if you need to use email, APRFC@NOAA.gov, and of course our office phone number there as well. So we appreciate you tuning in for this. We wish you a very happy and safe breakup season, and we'll be here monitoring to keep you safe. Thanks so much.